Cody and Shalayne, Monson, we're so glad to have them today. I would call them a family friend. They're really good friends with my sister-in-law and her husband. And so beyond that, just incredible entrepreneurs, done a lot of interesting, cool things. One of which is Lowland Kids, which is kind of a fashion design company. They sell PDF prints, sewing prints all over the world, right? To lots of different people that can create their own clothing. And so that's one of the things they've done. Beyond Lowland Kids, Cody's co-founded several other businesses, and some of them being Crisp, let me see if I got them all, Dentma and Droply, all harnessing technology, software, and even AI, which you'll hear a little bit about AI today. They're going to share some of their insights and how they use AI in their businesses and the things and the ways that it's helped them. But I think most importantly, what I always appreciate about speakers coming is their intention for what they're doing with entrepreneurship. And Cody and Shalayne have every good intention in the world to help people and to serve and to provide opportunities for others that maybe don't have it. And so I hope more than anything, you feel their goodness and their desire to make a positive impact in the world, because I think that's really what they're doing daily on a regular basis, both in their family and in their entrepreneurial ventures. So without further ado, we are super excited to have Cody and Shalayne Monson.
Thanks, Landon. So, Landon just reminded me of a funny time. A couple of years ago, I started trading NFTs. You guys know what NFTs are? So NFTs and crypto full-time. I did full-time for a couple of years in 2017, and then again, or I guess maybe 4 years ago now, and made good money, traveled the world, trading, meeting with all the top founders, and I felt so empty inside, like incredibly empty. And I was like, what is this? Because yeah, the money was really good. I felt like I was progressing. But then the realization came to me that there are very few things you can do in this world to make good money and provide zero net good to the world. And trading crypto and NFTs is one of those things. You provide zero net good to the world. And I realized I'm like, that's the most empty thing. So I stopped that pretty quickly after that realization. So today we want to go over just a few things. So we'll introduce ourselves and our companies. We'll do a little AI quiz to see where you guys are at with your knowledge of AI. Go over the tool stack that we use to build with AI. If we have time, this is a ton of stuff, so I'm going to try to go fast, but we'll do a quick AI demo of just prototyping, building a quick project, and then Q&A if we have time for that as well. Does that sound good? All right, so brief history. I studied accounting at BYU. My dad is a CPA. He has a firm, and he's like, you're going to take it over someday. I thought I was going to take it over someday. And I realized as soon as I got into the accounting program that I hate accounting. But it was a good background, and I kept hearing that, you should go corporate, be a CEO of a big company someday. And while I was in the accounting program, it was absolute fate. One of my best friends that I made there, he was one of those brilliant people I've ever met. He's a VP at Bank of America at like 28 years old, just brilliant, brilliant guy. He had done an internship for a private equity firm, and the CEO of that firm loved him so much. One of his buddies that he invested in, I think they raised $15 million. He's like, oh, you need to hire this guy. He'll be your right-hand man. You need to hire him. He's incredible. And my friend's name is Brock. And so his private equity buddy tells him, hey, Brock, I have this internship opportunity for you. You should go do it. And Brock's like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. He got the contact info of the CEO. And that day, Brock's like, hey, I already have another job. Do you want to do this? I'm like, sure. And I had no context as to who this other guy was and how the referral came about. So I go to this interview, and I don't know if you guys know about tech companies. I mean, companies all over are changing now, but pretty much every company I knew of back then, you just wore like a suit and a tie to an interview, and tech companies, that's not what you do. And so I show up in a suit and a tie into this like modern tech building. All of the developers, designers, everyone was staring at me like, who the heck is this guy? So I walk in and I'm like, yeah, I did not wear the right thing here. So I show up, start talking to the CEO, and he's like trying to sell himself on to me the entire time. Like he wasn't actually trying to interview me. He was selling himself. I'm like, that was the weirdest interview I've ever had. And he offers me the job at the end. I'm like, okay, sure. Like it's great pay. It's like a really sweet position. I can learn a ton. And so I did that job for a while, and I did well. I helped them grow and everything. And I learned a few months later that Brock had never told his buddy that he didn't go to the interview. And so this guy thought I was Brock this entire time, that I was this brilliant guy, like next level genius, and I'm definitely not that. But I never gave him a reason to not believe that. So it was a funny thing. I still think actually to this day he thinks I'm that. I graduated definitely the bottom half of my class, so I'm not smart like Brock was. But what that opened up for me was I realized I'm like, holy cow, tech is way more interesting than accounting. For me, maybe you guys like accounting, but for me, I can't do it. So I started getting really heavy into tech, and at that company I met a developer who was building an app, and I'm like, hey, we should take this and make this big. And so we created Droply, and Droply is for multi-level marketing companies. This is maybe 12 years ago. They specifically doTERRA, if you guys know what doTERRA is, the way that they were like handing information to each other was all paper as analog. So they're handing books and paper. It was really expensive, and there was no way to track are people actually utilizing these resources. So we built a centralized database where you could create, it was an app where you could create your recipes on these cards on how you mix different oils and how you use them and everything, and have that saved in one app, and then people could share them with each other. And we got, tens of thousands of recipes on it. We had probably 25,000, I think, users by the time I stepped away from it. Right when we were graduating accounting, I had like a 2.5 GPA. I was terrible at school, hated school. But we had a job at Deloitte out in DC, and Shalayne and I, up until the day before, like, should we stay and build this tech startup? Should we go do accounting? And we asked ourselves, what would we regret more? And realized pretty quickly, if I didn't see if maybe accounting could be the path, like maybe that's the path. So let's try that out. Day one, I show up to Deloitte. They spent 4 hours trying to tell us why they're the greatest company in the world. And I am like, if you have to spend 4 hours telling us why you're the greatest company in the world, you're probably not the greatest company in the world. So I was like, I don't belong here. So we stayed for a few months. And then after a few months, had the opportunity to join a small startup, Dentma. And what they did at the time was they did consulting for dentistry and orthodontics. And they brought me in as a junior partner and another more technical guy as a junior partner as well. And they would charge $300 an hour to automate things. So if a dentist, at the time, again, this is a little bit before what we have now, but like if you want to automate appointment reminders, there's no way to really do that. There's no good SaaS products for that. And so we would build that, charge $300 an hour, and it was like, here's your thing. And it sounds like a lot of money on paper, but they paid me $10 an hour to do that work. And we had our first baby at the time. I think we made $1,500, and we're like, oh, this is not going to work. So me and the other junior partner were like, well, let's take one of the products that we've done with consulting and let's turn it into a SaaS business. And we had a lot of pushback from the team, but we decided, this is a really interesting product. So he built all the tech. I took on the sales, the marketing, the support, the onboarding, all of it. And we sold $1 million in the first 10 months of ARR, and it just kept growing from there. But the problem is I had no clue what I was doing. And so in the messaging, it was really good for the dentists and orthodontists. They loved it. But after the dentists and orthodontists actually implemented it in their systems, they were making incredible ROI. It was like the lowest one we saw was 300% ROI. Like they're crushing it. But we had a 50% churn rate after the first year. And we're like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are half of them canceling? And I'd get on the call with every single one. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, sorry, I can't do it. My staff hates me. Like, this is making their lives easier. Turned out the treatment coordinator, the person whose job it was to do the follow-up that we had automated, felt like their job was threatened. And so I'm like, hey, how do we get around this? Because we kind of are replacing a lot of what they're doing. So we rebranded it and we said, well, what if instead of Lifeline, we said, it's like the Lifeline bringing patients back. What if we rebranded to Ava, which is the treatment coordinator's personal assistant? And so we completely changed everything on the front end. The back end was the exact same thing. And now we marketed it to the treatment coordinator instead of to the orthodontist and the dentist. And our churn dropped to 5% the next year. And we had the treatment coordinator who just like absolutely loved us because everyone feels like they want to have that personal assistant. Everyone feels like they're overwhelmed. And so just through that branding, which is crazy because the product is the exact same thing, that totally changed everything. So I helped grow that for a while. And then after a few years, I had an opportunity to start another company with some friends called Crisp. Who's heard of Sodalicious or Swig or any of those soda companies? Yeah, most of you. And if you guys have been there before, you've touched products that I've made. So with Crisp, what we did was we built, at the time, the world's first comprehensive point-of-sale platform for restaurants. And so if you have like the Swig app, that's something I designed and built. We did all their point-of-sale systems. We did kitchen display systems, loyalty, all the payments, the gift cards, everything. Because right now, restaurants, they're really fragmented. They pay for a dozen different platforms, and the data doesn't sync very well. Cafe Rio at the time was paying 2 full-time people, and all they did all day, every day, was download data from every single individual location and try to put it into a spreadsheet and normalize it. So like, well, there's interesting things we can do with data if we put everything in one stack. And so one thing that we did, actually, this is my first kind of real foray into AI back in 2018. We hired a machine learning engineer, and after about a month, they built an algorithm that could predict when someone was at risk. And so it would classify people in real time and put them in a different bucket. So for example, if they are like a regular customer, you'd put them at the top, they're not at risk. And then it'd kind of go down. And if it's someone like, say, they used to come every day and they haven't been for 3 weeks and they came again, we would pop up on the screen on the iPad. It'll say, hey, so-and-so hasn't been in a while. Read this exact script. So we'd have a script for them like, hey, Landon, so great to see you again. Thanks for coming back. Here's a free cookie on us. So that took about a month for them to build. It was pretty good. It actually worked really well. Because I was curious a few weeks ago, used AI and coded the same thing in a day. And I don't code. I'm not a technical programmer. It's insane what you can do with AI. So we'll jump into that. But at Crisp, I was working 100+ hour weeks for a while. We had a big global team, and it was brutal. And I wasn't home very often. And that kind of leads to Shalayne.
Yeah, so a little bit of my history. I studied elementary education in college, and I taught school for a year. And I realized, after that, I got pregnant with our first, and I realized that being a teacher and a mom was not ideal. I know some people do it, and they're amazing, but it wasn't for me. And I actually, after I got pregnant, I never planned on working at all. Honestly, I just wanted to be a mom. And I still kind of feel like I don't work, if I'm being honest. But anyway, when I was pregnant, when I was pregnant, I started looking for baby clothes, because that's what you do when you're pregnant and you have your first kid. And we didn't have a lot of money because we were out in DC and working for Deloitte. They didn't pay us very much at first. And I saw a bunch of cute little baby clothes, but they were so expensive, all the ones that I liked. And so I was like, maybe I could learn to make it. I had some sewing history growing up, but not a lot. I always thought sewing was like for making bonnets and aprons, and that wasn't really my jam. So I was like, well, these are cute and I could probably make it. So we lived close to my aunt, and she had a sewing machine, so I went over there and I would just start playing around with things, and I started teaching myself how to make these clothes. And that kind of just developed over a few years, and I would buy sewing patterns and make them. And then I quickly realized that I didn't love the sewing patterns that were out there. And so I started making my own, and I would share them in Facebook sewing groups, because when you create something, you want to share it with people, right? And there's actually a lot of Facebook groups out there with people who are just passionate about sewing and, a million different things. So I would share these things, and people would be like, where did you get that sewing pattern? I want it. And I was like, oh, I just made it. And they're like, you should sell these patterns. And I was like, I have no idea how to digitize this. Like, that sounds like a lot of work. Like, I don't know how to do that. So I kind of sat on it for a year. And then when Cody was doing Crisp and working 100-hour weeks, I would put my kids to bed, and I would just be scrolling Facebook. And I realized one day, I was like, this is such a waste of time. I'm like, you've probably been there, just scrolling social media of any kind. You don't feel good after a while, right? So I deleted Facebook off my phone, and I was like, I'm gonna spend this time trying to learn how to digitize sewing patterns and see if I can sell them. So I did. I spent a few months just kind of YouTubing, Googling everything I could to figure out how to make them digital and grade them to a range of sizes. And I got my first pattern released in 2019, the beginning of the year. And I gave it away for free for the first day. And I think there was like 100 people who got the pattern. And I was like, this is so cool. Like 100 people want to make this thing that I created. And after that, I just kind of kept going. I started with a free website. I think it was Big Cartel. And you could have like up to 5 products on there. And then after a few products, like a lot of people were buying. And so we switched to Shopify so we could scale it. And the cool thing about sewing patterns and this digital product is that it kind of sells through the community. And we've never paid for ads at all, because what we do is I have a team of testers, and so like every time I have a new design ready, I'm like, I have this group of the testers, and I say, okay, this pattern is ready, who wants to test it? They sign up, and we select a range of people to test all the sizes to make sure that it fits good and there's no mistakes. And they just do this for free because they like doing it and it's fun, and they get early access to it, and it's like, I don't know, it's just fun for them. And so they test the pattern, and then we release it, and they obviously get a free copy, and there's some other perks too. And then they always share it with our Facebook group, and then it gets other people excited. And so a lot of our sales just come through Facebook and people sharing and being excited about the product. So we've been doing that for, I guess it's year 6 now. Yeah, so this year we decided to homeschool our kids. And so it's very part-time now, but it's awesome because I can just work on it when I want to. And like I said, it's never felt like a job really, because it's kind of still always just been my hobby, sewing and making things that I want to make. So
Yeah, so I just looked it up and I forgot the number, but over 170 countries we have customers in now. Millions and millions and millions of pieces of clothing have been made from Shalayne's designs, which is so fun. And yeah, the business, it's so cool using Shopify. If you guys know what Shopify is, it scales like infinitely, right? And we don't have to do a bunch of dev, and we've done a little bit of custom stuff for our shop, but you don't have to do a lot. And so it's one of those tools that just takes you, forever. Like it takes you as big as you want to grow. Yeah, we couldn't have scaled like this without Shopify, which is awesome. So stepping back in, to be totally honest, I don't sew, and I don't really relate to our customer base, which is 99.99% female. And so I struggle to stay motivated on this business. I run all the tech. I do pretty much all the photography. I do all the design and accounting, legal, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, not pattern design, all the marketing, visual, other sort of design. So I do that, but like it doesn't really take time anymore. We kind of just built a system that runs, which is awesome. But I was playing a lot with AI when GPT-3 came out, got early access to that, and I was like playing with it, playing with all the image generation, just obsessed with it. And it felt kind of like a waste of time, but I was learning so much, and I'm like, this is gonna be valuable someday. I couldn't articulate it. So one thing that Shalayne encouraged me to do, she's like, well, you should do some consulting, like teach other people how to use AI, how to put it in their businesses and get more out of it. So started, but better. The idea was like, it's like consulting, but better. And maybe it can be an umbrella company where we do kids books, but better, and things generated with AI, which actually for Christmas we did, I gave a book to our kids that they love. It was 100% generated with AI. And at the end of the slide, actually I have one of the images from it. It's like these felt creatures. Anyways, so, but better, that still runs. And then Gumi, Shalayne has been homeschooling our kids since last fall, and we've just been running into a lot of struggles with that. We've got 5 little kids, and there's a lot of things like with home education, you generally have 2 main options. One is you kind of abdicate all of the responsibility of teaching to an online platform, and you have some visibility, but you're not involved, you're not in the loop as a parent. Or on the other side, you take 100% of it on, you get a curriculum, and then you spend so much time to make sure that you're teaching, and you're stressed and wondering if you have the right ideas and everything. And so Gumi is like, we're just trying to solve our own problems, which is the same thing with Lowland Kids. Those, I was not solving my problem. I would recommend you solve your own problems, so don't follow those. But Lowland Kids, it was like, and that's why it's been so natural and it feels like a hobby to her, because she's just doing something that she wanted to see in the world. And Gumi's the exact same thing, which it's been so fun. So we started building this with AI, like literally from day one, we said this is gonna be an AI first company. And what does that mean? We're gonna get into that. So let's go through some of these things. First, we'll start with name that logo. Yeah, so call it out when you guys know what it is. So this is ChatGPT, Gemini. Someone said it. Claude. Yeah, this is Anthropic Claude. This is a team that broke off from OpenAI, and they're really good. Claude is very, very, very good. So this one's called Perplexity. Perplexity is awesome because they basically integrate all of the other AIs, and you can select which one you want to use, and then it can search the internet. And so if you're ever doing any sort of research for school or anything, you can like plug in the internet with search, which Google Gemini can do, and it's getting better, but it's still pretty dumb. And so Perplexity, highly recommend it. Anyone know this one? DeepSeek, yes. So this is like launched to #1 in the App Store. So DeepSeek is a Chinese company and very controversial. When they released their tech, what happened was it crashed NVIDIA's market cap by over $500 billion in one day, which is by far the biggest fall in any market cap ever. And DeepSeek, they just have brilliant engineers, and they figured out some things, and then the big thing is that they open sourced it. So all of the other teams, they're building stuff, and you could use the product, but you didn't really know what it did. And they're like, here, you can see everything, you can copy it, you can build your own business off of it. So DeepSeek is pretty transformational recently. Okay, so going on to the tech stack that I use, there's a lot. We're gonna kind of simplify this, but essentially on the chat side, ChatGPT, obviously, Claude, which is really, really good at writing. It's by far the best. It writes very naturally, and it's the best at coding as well. Gemini I use sometimes because it's got the biggest context window, so you can drop like 20,000 PDFs into it or something. It's a ridiculous number. Perplexity, as I just said. Grok is built into the X app, formerly Twitter, so I use that sometimes because it can search the internet. On the creative side, have you guys heard of Midjourney? Does anyone know what Midjourney is? So Midjourney is by far the best text-to-image generator. Imagen 3, so this one was just released by Google in the last couple weeks. That one is very, very, very good too, but Midjourney is like a lot more stylistic. So in a couple slides, I'll show you guys some examples of images I've done. 11 Labs, so 11 Labs does text to voice, and that's, you type something and it can read it out loud. It's incredible, like sounds so lifelike. A lot of translation that you hear in different languages, they can like take your voice from a really short clip and then they can translate it in any language and it sounds like you're speaking that. Then Suno, have you guys heard of Suno? So Suno can generate music. They have an app, it's free, you guys should check it out, it's insane. So you could just like type a country pop song about blah, 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 and then it'll write a song and it's so good. They just released, I think, V4, and it is ridiculous. Like you can't tell that it's not a human singing it, and it's very, 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 very good. So then on the code side, and this is the part that I'm more excited about right now, partially because it's newer, but partially because you guys in this entrepreneurship series, like this is crazy what it can help you do. So Replit, actually I'll just get into each of these in a second, but Cursor is the only one that if you're not like semi-technical, you probably don't need to use that. Okay. So from a high level, what I use ChatGPT for is idea generation. So it'll help you brainstorm and refine ideas. Planning, so assist with product and marketing plans, and then research, streamline competitive market research. They have a bunch of different models. If you guys use ChatGPT, it's kind of confusing. Like there's O1, O1 Pro, O3, O3 Mini, O3 Mini High, 4.0, 4.0 with scheduled tasks. Like there's so many different ones. And each one has its own strengths. Basically, you're going to use 4.0, like to really simplify it. 4.0 is if you need to chat with something really fast, it's like instant. And it's what AI has been for a while. And the way that these work is they downloaded the entire internet virtually, and then they made it so that you can query, you can talk to the internet. And then it has a personality and then it'll respond back to you. And so with 4.0, it'll choose a direction and kind of answer it. And sometimes you'll notice that it's like not the right direction. You're like, oh, maybe it's kind of dumb. Usually it comes down to how well you can prompt it, how well your question is, and how well you structure it. So 4.0 is really good for quick stuff, accessing the internet. Then 0.3 mini is a new one. And that one is a thinking model, which is like the whole next paradigm of AI. And the thinking models are crazy because instead of just choosing the direction, it takes your question and then it actually thinks and it builds out a plan on how to answer your question. So it could be really simple questions like, how do I make a really good logo, to really complex questions where you're dropping in this massive code base with 20,000 lines of code, and it like will take your question, build out a plan, it'll start to solve it, and it's so funny watching it. DeepSeek was the first one to do this, to show you. It'll go down, and then it'll be like, okay, I almost got that right, but that's not quite what he was asking for, so let's try this direction. And then it'll just like try stuff until it figures it out, and then it'll spit out the answer for you. So these models are getting so much smarter and better. And then research, OpenAI released something called Deep Research recently, and it's incredible. It'll search hundreds of websites and pull actual research for you. Okay, so on the coding side, V0, Bolt, Replit, and Lovable. These ones are really interesting because if you have an idea, as you guys have seen, we've built multiple businesses. Whenever we have an idea, we have to hire developers, and it's really expensive, like $20,000 for a prototype type of expensive. And now, and you do that, and then you kind of have to like spell everything out as perfectly as you can, and then you hand it off to the developer, and of course you missed 80% of what he actually needed to code this thing for you. And so you get something that doesn't really represent what you wanted, and there's miscommunication. It usually takes like a few weeks. And now with these tools, you can start to talk to it, and then you get an idea back visually represented to you, like an actual app that works or a website or whatever, and it takes 30 seconds, maybe a few minutes if it's something more complex. So you start to think about, you take the cycle of like once every 3 weeks getting an iteration down to once every minute of an iteration, and you can think about how fast you can iterate. And iteration is everything because you learn each time you iterate, right? It's like you could build a cleaning business, and at first you might not know what you're doing. The more you clean, the more you're iterating, the more you're learning, the faster you get it, the better you get at it, the more you can charge. And it's the same thing with development. It's the same thing with building any company. It's all about speed of iteration. And so now with these tools, non-technical people can iterate at insane speeds. It's crazy what you can do. So then Claude, I already told you guys, it's great at marketing. It's the most natural writer. And then coding, it's the best at real world coding. Here's some images from Midjourney. Imagen 3 is awesome as well. So if you pay for Gemini, or if maybe it's free, I don't know, but you can generate really good images. So you can do logos. I mean, like within a few seconds, you can generate insane, awesome logos. You can do product photography. So we've actually generated images of clothes, and Shalayne has created patterns out of those clothes that didn't exist before. This is like 100% AI. And we've made, one of them, I think over $10,000 on it, from an AI image to like actually a product that we shipped, which is insane. And so you can start to do things like, drop your image inside of and take your photography absolutely to the next level. You can do concept art, you can do different ideas. I mean, we use it for so many different things, even for photography inspiration. So I'm doing a lot of photography, and it can be exhausting to search Pinterest and other places. And so I'll just say, I need pictures of like modern clothes, kids joggers, and the kids are walking side to side, so it's a side shot, and use natural earth tone colors, make it modern, blah, blah, blah. I explain the scene, then it'll do a few images, and I'm like, oh, I like that, so then I'll go and take the actual photo, right? Hopefully soon we don't even have to take any real photos because this is so good. So Midjourney, Imagen 3, absolutely incredible on the creative side of things. So how to build with AI. This is one of the characters from the book that we created. This is made by Midjourney. It's a felt dragon book, which is it's amazing. So first you take your idea, and this is massively simplified, but like you could really build something legit with this. Use ChatGPT to generate ideas and do market research. So you could start with yourself. Be like, these are some things that annoy me. Or if you don't even know what annoys you. Tony Fadell, the guy who designed the iPod, one thing that I love that he talks about, he says, it's like the apple and the sticker problem, where every apple has a sticker on it, and every time someone wants to eat an apple, they have to like dig their finger and they're ruining the flesh, peel it off, and you got to flick the sticker off. It's such an annoying thing, but we've all gotten completely used to it, and so we just ignore this problem. So what other problems do we face in our lives that we could start to focus on? And maybe try to solve, because there's so many things that we all face that, yeah, no, there are no solutions for. So use ChatGPT, talk to it like a person. That's probably the biggest tip that I have. And like if it's being dumb, you can even tell it you're being dumb, and just like really actually treat it like it's another human, and you'll get so much further than just trying to talk to it like Google. So then prototype, use Replit. So I'd highly recommend each of you guys checks this out. They just released in the last couple weeks. They have a mobile app, and you can literally be like, make me a brick breaker game, and then it'll code the thing like on your app, and you can actually use it on your phone. This is like crazy, and they do it for free. I think the first 1 or 2 iterations of it are free, and then it's just $20 a month after that. So with Replit, it's incredible too, because you can take an idea from the very first prototype, and they built the whole stack out. So now you don't have to integrate. It's really like, there's quite a bit of the tech stack when you're building an app that just, it sucks to deal with like external databases and authentication, all these different things. Replit squishes that all into one thing, and you don't even have to understand any of it. You just say your idea and then be like, oh, I don't like the color, or make it more friendly, or change this thing, or add like a profile screen or something like that. You just talk to it like a person, it'll literally code it out. This is like the biggest unlock for you guys building businesses. So then we have marketing, use Claude and Midjourney for Claude for copy, Midjourney for visuals, and then repeat, because it's all about iteration. You want to test as fast as you possibly can. Get it in front of people. If you know someone who faces the problem that you're going after, like build a prototype. Instead of just sending a crappy mock-up, you can actually send like working prototypes, which is incredible. And then repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, so yeah.
He doesn't say you're dumb to people usually.
No,
Talk to it like
that's
it's a
true.
person, but
That's true. I don't say that. I'm nice. Yeah, just as a quick recap of what we talked about, and then I want to show you guys, if we have a few minutes, an actual example of building something. So solve your own problems. It's way easier to stay motivated when you're solving your own problems versus trying to fix something for someone else. And the other part too is like, I don't want to counter anything that you're saying in class, but it sucks to do user research, if I'm being honest. Like I hate doing user research. And if you are the person you're solving the problem for, the amount of user research you have to do, like actually talking to people, decreases dramatically, because you can actually get the first version out and then you put it in front of people and you actually have something interesting. When you have to just do user research, like it's just so much faster and easier to solve your own problems. Iterate quickly. Like I said, the cycle of iteration, that's everything. Like that's the biggest key and unlock. That's what they're doing in Silicon Valley. That's what they preach, is like, that's what, like you're sleeping in the office so that you can just build faster and faster and faster. And Y Combinator, for a while, they're like, you pretty much just want devs on your founding team because you can iterate way faster when you do that. So then, yeah, the last thing is use AI every day. The only way to get good at this is to use it every day. All of the tools that I showed you have free versions, and a lot of them, I don't even pay for a handful of them, because they'll give you 5 or 10, and then I can just test ideas and then move on to the next one, or wait till the next day on that particular tool. Yeah.
with solving your own problems, if you do that and then you have a product, you're going to be way more passionate about it when you're sharing it with people, and they'll be way more interested because they'll see.
And authentic.
Yeah, it's very authentic.
Yeah. Actually, do you guys have any questions before we move on? No questions? Okay. All right, so we're just going to jump in. I pre-typed a quick little prompt here. So prompt, it's the term you use for any time you type something to an AI. So this tool is called V0. It's incredible at making, watch, it's going to make something ugly. It's incredible at making things that look really nice, usually. Sometimes it's terrible at it, so we'll see. So I just typed this out. I said, create a fashion discovery platform similar to Tinder, where the user clicks a heart or an X. If they click the heart, it saves to their profile. If they click the X, it does not save. After the user clicks either option, it auto advances to the next card. And so you just kind of spell out what you expect the flow to be. You don't have to. You could literally just say, make the Tinder for shopping, and it will do something, and sometimes it'll be right. But the more specific you are, the more likely you are to get something that you were expecting and hoping for. So the main user interface with a card-based design, profile with save cards and back button to return home. Add 5 dummy cards with images pulled from the web. Design should be minimal, modern, with clean design language and subtle shadows. So this is actually what I do. Like I'll send this, then I'll go to another one of these tools, which all have free versions. I'll copy and paste it. Then I'll drop it into Lovable. And then I'll drop it into Replit. And then now they're all just coding in the background, like they're just doing their thing. You can open 15 instances of each if you wanted to. And this is what I'm talking about with iteration. Instead of just getting one quick idea, now I've got 4 ideas that are working in the background. And then they're gonna come back and they'll show me something, they'll show us something that we're like, that's not really, doesn't make sense. Okay, so V0 is coding. You can watch it code. You can access the code on all of them. Let's see which one's closest. Okay, Replit is the only one that it'll give you an actual plan, build the initial prototype. Yeah, I don't think we need anything else, so approve, plan, and start. All right, so looks like Bolt was the fastest, Bolt and V0. Oh yeah, sorry. Let's make sure you guys can see that. Okay, so this is the first version. Let's see if it works. Doing live demos is dangerous. I would not recommend this. Okay, so we liked it. Oh, yeah. Random stuff. Okay, let's go to the profile. Look, it saved the one that we liked. Sweet, so we have the first iteration. Then we can say, this design kind of sucks. Let's make it look way better. Let's see how it handles that. Okay, then Bolt. This one's quite a bit better. So it's like that, not that, like that, not that. What was that? Oh yeah, it has prices on this. Okay, let's check the profile. Sweet, save the ones. Okay, so that one works. All right, Lovable also works. Or is that the one we were just in? No, it didn't. So this one's not actually saving the items, so we'll tell it, hey, please make sure it saves the items. Okay, so we've got, pretty decent prototypes here. Then we can come into Midjourney. So we can generate a logo with Midjourney. Okay, this is the better design. That's actually worse. Okay, we don't like the Ray-Bans. Yep, I didn't put the Ray-Bans in there. So you can see very, 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 very quickly, we have something that you can start to test. And then you can do this with any idea. So I did, for our kids, I was like, oh, we should make a mock version of the solar system that's 3D and they can play with it and it shows the planet's rotation relative to each other as well as the size relative to each other. And you can change the speed and you can click on things. And all of these ideas that we have in our heads, we can actually start to build the moment you have them. Now with the phone app, now that you have Replit app, you can literally start testing. Please, everyone, download it. It's free and it works awesome. And you can start, the iteration process. Okay, let's open Claude real quick. And I'll just show you really quick. Something that's amazing with Claude is you can create these projects, and then in a project you can upload, Okay, you can upload custom instructions to this project. You can add a bunch of different content like this is for a Tinder-like shopping app. And then you can add a bunch of Tinder content, tons and tons, code bases, anything. And then every time you open up this project, you don't have to give it all the context of everything you're working on. It already has it in here. So you can ask it a quick question like, hey, how should I market my app? Obviously a terrible question, but for example purposes, say it pulled in, it's a Tinder-like interface. And it's gonna build an entire marketing plan, or it'll start really rough and then say, okay, this is where you can start. Here's some questions and things that you can ask. So then, once we have that, we can build, where is it? We can deploy this app, and all of these have this option. So if you see deploy, and then it'll just give you a link, and you can share that with people and test things. And it's building. But yeah, that's basically, any questions on any of this? Yeah. Yeah, so it's hosting all of the images that it has here. Yeah. Yeah, so everything that you see here, I could send to you guys, and you can, it's like your site has been successfully deployed. So let's open it in incognito and see. Yeah, there it is. You like it. And boom, you have something to test. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Dude, that's an impossible question. It's moving really fast. You have a lot of fear-mongering, people trying to scare you and being like, there's going to be no white-collar jobs left, there's going to be nothing here. And if you look at the history of the world, every time there's a major innovation, whether it be the internet or the car or industrialization in the first place, there's always all these new jobs that come, right? Like all the people who are cleaning up horse poop. And all of a sudden there's not horse poop in the street, right? We don't know exactly what that is, but as I've talked to AI, I have this conversation quite often with AI, because I'm like, what jobs do you think are going to be left? And kind of the central point that it comes back to is humans prefer humans. Humans build systems that protect humans, and humans will always protect these jobs for each other. And so I think the nature of a lot of these companies and the jobs that we're going to do, for example, her dad, he's a serial entrepreneur, and he recently acquired a luxury pickleball resort in Baja, Mexico. Random story, but he ended up taking that over. And that, for me, I was like, that's a perfect example because, okay, say people don't have to work as much anymore. Like there's incredible amount of wealth that's shared among people because it's so much easier to produce stuff. Because each individual, I think rather than like replacing most jobs, it's going to make it so each job person can do 10, 20, 50x, 100x what they're doing before. And so you guys are all going to be expected to use AI. And the earlier you get into this, the quicker you'll be able to rise through any company or build your own companies because it's expensive. Like we won't use contractors if they're not using AI. It costs so much more money for their time. So to answer your question, a lot of physical experiences I think would be really interesting, like a pickleball resort, right? AI is only going to augment and help a situation like that. And so as we're evaluating companies, we're like, AI, like ChatGPT keeps releasing new features, and each time they do that, they steamroll dozens of companies, like companies that had raised tons of money in funding, and then ChatGPT just does it internally, and those companies are just wiped out. Like there's no value proposition for them anymore. And so we're like, okay, what sort of companies can we start that will be augmented by AI, that we will be stoked when AI gets smarter rather than scared that it's going to take over what we're doing? And education was one we were kind of going back and forth on a lot, because if you guys have used ChatGPT, especially the real-time voice where you can talk to it, it's like you're talking to a human that's infinitely empathetic and absolutely brilliant, and I talk to it all the time. But what it doesn't have is your entire life context. And okay, say that context window gets bigger, parents are still going to want control over how their kids are talking to AI, right? And so if we can build some sort of intermediary layer where we can prompt inject all these useful tidbits about the individuals, and so, yeah, that's a really roundabout way to answer your question. There's so many different directions, like, because we say AI, but there's like all the text to image, text to speech, text to text, text to video. If you guys have seen Sora or any of those tools, they're absolutely incredible. And then we're going to see it on the bio side, we're going to see it everywhere. So the biggest tip I can give you, because I don't know exactly where it's going, is just make sure you're on top of it. Make sure you're using it every day, and you'll be so far ahead of everyone else who is a little bit more hesitant. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
When creating these businesses like fully with AI, what like legal or things should you be looking into as you're like creating these companies?
That's a question for ChatGPT. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I ask ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this really dumb thing. Should I not be? Like with the international business, my father-in-law's, he's building a franchise out of this pickleball resort, and none of us know anything about Mexican law. And you Google Mexican law, you're like, it kind of makes sense, but like, how does it actually work in practicality, like in reality, right? And so using AI to do deep research to actually like pull cases and everything, we're able to build this really solid franchise document that can now scale to a ton of different countries. And I'm not an attorney, pass it by an attorney, and they're like, yeah, this looks pretty good. And so I just talk to AI. Any questions you guys have, I can try to answer, but AI is going to be way better at answering it, to be honest. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, don't ask me. You guys did well. Don't ask me. Yeah.